Romans chapter 8. There is therefore now no condemnation to them that are in anointed Yeshua. For the law of the Spirit of the life in anointed Yeshua freed me from the law of the sin and of the death. For the impossible thing, for the law, in which thing it was powerless through the flesh, the God, sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned the sin in the flesh, that the statute of the law might be fulfilled by us, who walk not for the purpose of flesh, but for the purpose of spirit. For they that are after the flesh mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For the mind of the flesh is death, but the mind of the Spirit is life and peace. Because the mind of the flesh is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of the God, neither indeed can it be. And they that are in the flesh cannot please God. So there you have it, people. If you are against God's law, if you are not subject to the law of God, if therefore you have the mind of the flesh, that is the mind of the flesh, to be not subject to the law of the God. So if you are wondering what part of you is so happy to agree with your Christian preachers at church, which tell you that you don't have to keep the law, that the law is done away with. If you're wondering what part of you is so willing to agree with that nonsense, it's the flesh. It's the mind of the flesh. The mind of the flesh is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can it be. And they that are in the flesh cannot please God. So there's the result. They that are in the flesh cannot please God. But ye are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. Now, he's not talking to you if you have the mind of the flesh. He's not talking to you. The Bible was not written for you, modern Christian. It was written for the true believers 2,000 years ago. If you want to be a true believer, then start paying attention to what the Bible actually says, and start paying attention to what God said in his law. But ye are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if so be that God's Spirit dwelleth in you. But if any man hath not anointed's Spirit, he is none of his. And if anointed is in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the Spirit is life because of righteousness. But if the Spirit of him that raised up Yeshua out of dead ones dwelleth in you, he that raised up anointed Yeshua out of dead ones shall give life also to your mortal bodies through his Spirit that dwelleth in you. So then, brothers, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live after the flesh. For if ye live for the purpose of flesh, ye are about to be dying. But if by the Spirit ye put to death the deeds of the body, ye shall live. For as many as are led by God's Spirit, these are God's sons. For ye received not a spirit of slavery again to fear, but ye received a spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself beareth witness with our spirit that we are God's children. And if children, then heirs, God's heirs on the one hand, and on the other hand co-heirs with anointed. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified with him. For I reckon that the sufferings of the present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed toward us. For the earnest expectation of the creation waiteth for the revealing of the sons of the God. For the creation was subjected to vanity, not of its own will, but by reason of him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself also shall be delivered from the slavery of the corruption into the freedom of the glory of the children of the God. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until the present. And not only so, but ourselves also, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for our sonship, the redemption of our body. For in the hope we were saved. But a hope that is seen is not a hope. For who hopeth for that which he seeth? But if we hope for that which we see not, then do we with hopeful perseverance wait for it. And in like manner, the Spirit also helpeth our infirmity, for we know not how we ought to pray. We know not how to pray as we ought, but the Spirit himself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. And he that searcheth the hearts knoweth what is the mind of the Spirit, because that one maketh intercession for holy ones according to the will of God. And we know that to them that mindfully love the God, all things he is working together for good, to the ones being called ones according to his purpose. For whom he foreknew, he also foreordained to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers. And whom he foreordained, them he also called. And whom he called, them he also justified. And whom he justified, them he also glorified. What then shall we say to these things? If the God is for us, who is against us? He that spared not his own Son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not also with him freely give us all things? Who shall lay anything to the charge of God's elect? It is God that justifieth. Who is he that condemneth? It is anointed Yeshua that died, yea rather, that was raised out of dead ones, who is at the right hand of the God, who also maketh intercession for us. Who shall separate us from the love of anointed? Shall tribulation, or anguish, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or sword? Even as it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long. We were accounted as sheep for the slaughter. But in all these things we are hyper-conquering through him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death nor life, nor messengers, nor principalities, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the mindful love of the God, which is in anointed Yeshua, our Lord. So if you have been walking faithfully, it's not going to be the devil's fault if you stop walking faithfully, is it?